Hey everybody, and welcome to Bible study. A little earlier than usual, I know. But I have a mother-son date, and we're going to go see Carrie Job at the, I want to say, North Phoenix Baptist Church, or something close to that. It's on Central and Bethany. So it should be a good concert, though. Carrie Job's a beautiful singer. She has a great voice, and it should be a good time.
Yeah. For you?
Yeah. You'll be here with the kids. You can make a pizza. And that makes everything better. Well, here's a funny story while you guys tune in for Bible study, since it's early. I sent her a picture yesterday. I was at home doing some computer work, and I sent her a picture of my half-eaten pizza. I'd already eaten 4 slices myself, and I was on my 5th slice, had it half-eaten. I sent a picture of my slice with the remaining slices in the background. I put true love. And when she saw it on her phone, the only thing it showed was true love. And so she thought it would be a cute, sweet picture or something romantic. But no, it was me and my pizza.
So, I see where I rank when it comes to pizza. Let me see.
No, you have to do trivia questions. You can't look yet.
Why can't I do you trivia questions?
Because I know the answers.
You don't know everything.
And I make them up as I look. Oh, wait. Maybe we're on chapter 9. Did we talk about Samson last week?
We're talking about Ruth this week.
Yeah, so we're on chapter 9. That's my bad, too. Oh, I got so turned around in this. Are we sure Samson was last week?
Yes, baby.
Okay. Yeah. That's totally Alyssa's fault, guys. Alright. So, Samson. First trivia question, guys. Samson was born into a covenant with God. In this covenant, God said, do not do this thing to show your trust in me.
Cut your hair.
Okay, at least let me finish. I feel like
You sounded
correct.
done.
Do not cut your hair is what God asked him to do. Samson was married. His wife was killed. When he was enraged at his wife being killed, what did he do?
He killed a lion.
No. He killed the Philistine men. How many did he kill?
I didn't know the answer. What makes you think
Was
I
it
know
500, 1,000, or 1,500?
1,000.
And what did he do it with?
A stick.
It was the jawbone of a donkey. I believe it was the jawbone of a donkey. It wouldn't say it in here. I don't think it's even in this part. Alright. What was the name of the woman who was trying to trick Samson into giving the secret, what he thought was the secret of his strength? Okay? And what did he say was the secret to his strength?
One of the times he said to braid his hair and tie it up.
Yeah,
Something like that.
And there was new rope and leather straps. But what was the true secret that he thought would take away his powers when he was honest with her? If she did what, his powers would leave him.
If she cut his hair, his powers would be gone.
True. Now that's what he thought. But we know, as a deeper understanding of wisdom, is that the hair was never giving him power. God was. The hair was just a sign of his trust in God. But he betrayed his trust in God by giving the secret to a woman that he was lusting after, adultering after, and was not married to. Right? And so after he gave his secret, they captured him and did what to him?
Gouged his eyes out.
Correct. And then did what?
Prisoned him, and then he was tied up to the Colosseum.
Exactly. They presented him for their own entertainment and said, our God has delivered Samson into our hands. Look. And so Samson, being there in the auditorium, if you'd call it such, a large Colosseum auditorium supported by 2 main pillars, and he was in there. And this is a large room. Think like an amphitheater in school. There's most likely between couple thousand men in there, mostly highly elected officials, at this huge feast and banquet they were having. And so Samson decided to pray to God and what he asked God for in that moment.
One last moment of strength.
Exactly. He asked God for one last moment of strength and to be with him, and then he did what?
Pulled on his arms so that the towers came crashing down.
Exactly. And we say pull because we both watch the Bible series. It's on Netflix. It's a series that was done by the History Channel. Super cool. But it doesn't say exactly how. He might have pushed on him. He might have pulled on him. Because there's two pillars, it makes most sense that you would pull him because he was chained up. So that's what we think. But yeah, so he pulled him that last moment of strength. And it was said that he killed more Philistines in his last act than he ever did while he was alive, which is something to be said because we know he killed well over 1,000 Philistines in his time of being alive. And so that was Samson, a great judge. And a judge were people who were not elected rulers because there were no rulers of the Israelites at that time. They were kind of, I don't want to say slaves, but they were a race that was very belittled in that time. And so they didn't have any elected leaders, but they had people who took the reign of leadership on their own shoulders and stood up and made a difference in their time. And those were judges. So next, chapter 9, we have the faith of a foreign woman. And this is one of my favorite stories, and it tells so much about being a good person, being faithful, and taking care of people in your life. Would you like to start reading?
Sure. I get to touch the book.
It's a new day and age.
After Samson, the Israelites again started to sit and worship idols. A famine was going on in Judah, and no food would grow, so the people were always very hungry. A woman named Naomi and her family moved to the country of Moab, where there was food. But when they got to Moab, Naomi's husband died. Her sons got married in Moab to women named Oprah and Ruth. But then Naomi's sons died. She couldn't live in Moab anymore. Back then, widows had to be cared for by male relatives. All of Naomi's relatives lived back in Israel. While Naomi was in Moab, she heard that the Lord had helped his people. He had begun to provide food for them again. So Naomi and her daughter-in-laws prepared to go from Moab back to her home. She left the place where she had been living. Her two daughter-in-laws went with her. They started out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Naomi spoke to her two daughters-in-law. "Both of you go back," she said. "Each of you go to your own mother's home. You were kind to your husbands who have died. You have also been kind to me. So may the Lord be just as kind to you. May he help each of you find a secure place in the home of another husband. May he give you peace and rest." Then she kissed them goodbye. They broke down and sobbed loudly. They said to her, "We'll go back to your people with you." But Naomi said, "Go home, my daughters. Why would you want to come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Go home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Suppose I thought there was still some hope for me. Suppose I got married to a man tonight, and later I had sons by him. Would you wait until they grew up? Would you stay single until you could get married to them? No, my daughters. My life is more bitter than yours. The Lord's powerful hand has been against me." When they heard that, they broke down and sobbed again. Then Oprah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth held on to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't try to make me leave you and go back. Where you go, I go. Wherever you stay, I'll stay."
So just to stop, so far, to sum it up, Naomi had sons, and they married, and she was still a big part of the family. And that was custom, is that they would all live near one another. They'd be very close. Family was your best friends. So unfortunate events led to both of her sons dying. So she had no blood relatives left. She had no parents. She had no sons. She had nobody at all to take care of her, and she was well past her prime, so past the point of where she would find a husband. So she was in a predicament. Whereas her daughter-in-laws were still young, and in that time could easily find husbands without, if they were to leave her and not have her to take care of, it'd be much easier for them to get by, to find husbands, and to remarry and have good lives. But one of her daughter-in-laws, they both wanted to stay, and she said, trust me, you don't want to do this. Your life's going to be very hard if you're with me. We'll barely get by. Barely survive, I should say. And so one of the daughters leaves, and then the other daughter, Ruth, says, no matter what you say, I will not go. Our fate will be the same. And so she chooses to stay with her. Now, a big question comes up here is, well, why did God allow a man to marry to multiple women? Well, I don't want to speak too much on it and get too detailed because I don't feel like my own research is complete. But I see one of the issues at that time is that women did not work back then. It was custom of the Israelites that women were not to work. They were strictly to focus on children, to focus on having children and taking care of the home. You couldn't just simply leave things like then. It's like they had door logging. It was a completely different time. So women were expected to take care of the home. But because war was so prominent and so many men would go off and die in war, women grossly overpopulated the men back then. So there wasn't enough men for the women to be married just to one man. And they had no way of surviving on their own as much as you would today. So the ability for a man to marry multiple women is his ability to say, I have the money, the space to be able to provide for you as well as you as well as you. So it's just a way that they were able to be taken care of in that time where they weren't able to be as independent as they were today.
Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I'll die, and there my body will be buried. I won't let anything except death separate you from me. If I do, may the Lord punish me greatly. Naomi realized that Ruth had made up her mind to go with her, so she stopped trying to make her go back. The two women continued on their way. At last they arrived in Bethlehem. Ruth, who was from Moab, spoke to Naomi. She said, let me go out to the fields. I'll pick up the grain that has been left. I'll do it behind anyone who is pleased with me. Naomi said to her, my daughter, go ahead. So Ruth went out and began to pick up grain. She worked in the fields behind those who were cutting and gathering the grain. As it turned out, she was working in a field that belonged to Boaz. Just then, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. He greeted those who were cutting and gathering the grain. He said, may the Lord be with you, and may the Lord bless you, they replied. Boaz spoke to the man who was in charge of his workers. He asked, who is that young woman? The man replied, she's from Moab. She came back from there with Naomi. She said, please let me walk behind the workers and let me pick up the grain that is left. Then she went into the field. She has kept on working there from morning until now. She took only one short rest in the shade. So Boaz said to Ruth, dear woman, listen to me. Don't pick up grain in any other field. Don't go anywhere else. Stay here with my female servants. Keep your eye on the field where the men are cutting grain. Walk behind the women who are gathering it. Pick up the grain that is left. I've told the men not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go and get a drink. Take water from the jars the men have filled. When Ruth heard that, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked, why are you being so kind to me? In fact, why are you even noticing me? I'm from another country. Boaz replied, I have been told all about you. I've heard about everything you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband died. I know that you left your father and mother. I know that you left your country. You came to live with people you didn't know before. May the Lord reward you for what you have done. May the God of Israel bless you richly. You have come to him and find safety under his care. Sir, I hope you will continue to be kind to me, Ruth said. You have comforted me. You have spoken kindly to me, and I'm not even as important as one of your female servants. When it was time to eat, Boaz spoke to Ruth again. Come over here, he said. Have some bread. Dip it in the wine vinegar. She sat down with the workers. Then Boaz offered her some grain that had been cooked. She ate all that she wanted. She even had some left over. Ruth got up to pick up more grain. Then Boaz gave orders to his men. He said, suppose she takes some stalks from what the women have tied up. If she does, don't make her look bad. Instead, pull some stalks out for her. Leave them for her to pick up. Don't tell her she shouldn't do it." So Ruth picked up grain in the fields until evening. Then she separated the barley from the straw. It amounted to more than half a bushel. She carried it back to town. Her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out the food that was left over from the lunch Boaz had given her, and she gave it to Naomi. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you pick up grain today? Where did you work? May the man who noticed you be blessed." Then Ruth told her about the man whose field she had worked in. "The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz," she said. "May the Lord bless him," Naomi said to her daughter-in-law. "The Lord is still being kind to those who are living and those who are dead." She continued, "That man is a close relative of ours. He's one of our family protectors." Then Ruth, who was from Moab, said, "He told me more. He even said, 'Stay with my workers until they have finished bringing in all of my grain.'" Naomi replied to her daughter-in-law Ruth. She said, "That will be good for you, my daughter. Go with his female servants. You might be harmed if you go to someone else's field." So Ruth stayed close to the female servants of Boaz as she picked up grain. She worked until the time when all of the barley and wheat had been harvested, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Boaz continued to be kind to Ruth because he was a close relative. He took care of Ruth and Naomi. He made arrangements to marry Ruth. So Boaz got married to Ruth. She became his wife. The Lord blessed her so that she became pregnant, and she had a son. The woman said to Naomi, "We praise the Lord today. He has provided a family protector for you. May this child become famous all over Israel. He will make your life new again. He'll take care of you when you are old. He's the son of your very own daughter-in-law. She loves you. She is better to you than 7 sons." Then Naomi put the child on her lap and took care of him. The women who were living there said, "Naomi has a son." They named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David.
So, really cool to see that Ruth was part of the genealogy that brought David.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a move for her to stay loyal to her mother-in-law, even though in those times she would have no obligation to her. It'd be completely socially acceptable for her to just abandon her, and there's no relation left. But she chose to stay with her, to stay by her, despite what's socially acceptable, and that people would find it odd that she would even feel so obligated to her. But she stayed by her side, and even throughout finding a new husband and having someone show such kindness to her and take her in as her wife, she said, "I won't abandon my mother-in-law. Please take her in as well." And what a kind man to take her in as well as Ruth. You know, it's really just a book of just extreme. It's a book of people being extremely gracious, a big amount of trust, a big amount of faith, and a big amount of kindness. And especially in the Old Testament, you get a lot more war, faith, and falling out, but you don't really get a lot of kindness and grace, and that's what you see a lot of in the book of Ruth, and I think it makes a big difference. And it really stands out to show the faith of women, and it gives them one of their big roles in the Old Testament as well.
I think it shows a lot of courage, too, that because going to a new country as a foreigner, she's not likely to find a husband or...
That's a very good point. Yeah, when we were doing our research on it before, just Ruth being foreign and not going back to her homeland puts her at such a smaller gap to find somebody to marry. Because back then, especially, you'd want to marry somebody who you were closely related to, like a distant cousin or something, was usually what you would look for. And so for her to go to a foreign land where she's a foreign woman, I mean, her chances are slim to none to find somebody who'd want to marry her. So I'm going to show you guys something that I was debating, and I probably shouldn't show you, but I'm going to show you anyway, because it's pretty funny. It's from John Haji Ministries, a church very far away, I'm sure. I have no idea of the church, but this clip was shown to me, and I found it pretty humorous, so I thought I'd share it with you guys.
You know, everybody's trying to get right. We want the right. See, some of you, how many single folks do I have here tonight? Let me see your hand. I got a word for you single folks.
How are you?
You know, Boaz and Ruth just settle for anybody. The Bible said Boaz was a handsome man, a rich man, a spiritual man, a sensitive man, and that equals a husband. You gotta wait. You got to wait on your Boaz. Don't just settle. But if you're not careful, when you go left and it's Friday night and you don't have a date and you're freaking out. I don't have a date. I didn't get married until I was 25. And you know, I just made a decision. I knew there was a call on my life. And I just said, I'm not going to go out and date just anybody and everybody. Because I know me. So I can remember Pastor Hagee, I used to get ready and get all dressed up on Friday night to see what I would look like if I did have a date. You know, if you're a half a person and you keep going left and you're so needy, you just take anything. I'll take him, I'll take her. You're going to keep attracting half people. But if you'll stay out there and get comfortable being with yourself and with God, you'll attract a whole person. Don't despise left. God's using left to get you right. Don't freak out because it's Friday night and you're in Saturday night and you're in church instead of the club. Boaz has some relatives, and if you don't watch it, you won't get the one God has for you. You'll get his relatives. To the girls, I found this on the internet. Boaz is spelled B-O-A-Z. Everybody say B-O-A-Z. And so he's got some relatives called broke-ass, po-ass, lying-ass, cheating-ass, dumb-ass, drunk-ass. Don't go out with him. Cheap-ass. Turn to somebody and say, I dated him. Locked up ass, good for nothing ass, lazy ass, and especially his third cousin beating your ass. Wait on your Boaz and make sure he respects your ass. Now there's your word. You wanted a word, you got a word. Quit dating anything on two legs. Let God take you through some loneliness. Let God take you through.
So like I said, borderline, but it's super funny. I like how he says, you want a word, you got it. There is truth to what he speaks. So definitely wait on the person that's right for you. And thanks for joining us on the couch for Bible study. Next week will be chapter 10 for us, and we'll talk about the story and the humble beginnings of King David. So we'll see you guys next week.